Good afternoon, Monday, November 25th, a short week with the holiday. It is a short week, market closed Thursday, and a little half day Friday. I'm sure a lot of you are busy with your friends, your family this week, working, whatever you're doing. Let's talk about GameStop for a second. So today, let's take a look at that net call premium. Actually, into the close, we saw a little bit of that movement of the net call premium kind of move up from around the 2 million. It was hanging around this afternoon, pushed up to about 4 mils. So we'll drill into some of that data there and take a look at that. One thing I wanted to talk about, I'd shared earlier from last week's video, we kind of talked about some of those price levels, the 2858, the 2979, and where did those come from? We talked about that year to date volume weighted average price, or the VWAP. We talked about that. Last week was at 2721. It's now 2722, with that close today at 2967, and that high of 2977 was very close again to that level we talked about last week. We were watching of 2979, and where that derived from was actually a previous high back in July. Was the July 17th. 2979. That was the last high. So that's where that derived from. And I know previously back in late October, we had talked about that kind of $25 gamma level that had existed. And to add a little bit of data to that, if we go back to, say, January 1st, and we use, for example, a volume by price, that's what I've got engaged right here on the chart. And I've got that anchored just to January 1. So what that does is basically volume by price, where is that heaviest level of concentration? And late around October, when we were talking about that 25 gamma level, which seemed to be kind of hard, we saw in August where we tried to get up around the 25. We had saw it again at the end of October, and then finally seen it post-election, the move above. That point of control right there was around 2488, 2485. See, the largest amount of volume doesn't mean there wasn't other volume. It's just the largest area. So it was kind of an area of a significance that we started noting around here when the stock was just kind of consolidating. And things we were looking for was higher volume. And that was something that's kind of occurred as we led up to the election, and then now since post-election. So as we zoom in a little bit on the chart there, we talked last week, where was the range? Where's the base going to be? Things I would like to see that was originally that 2858, and that was the last high on November 15th. And we saw that get attested on, let's see, November 20th, that high 2980. So that would kind of, again, very close, and achieve that 2979, and then today the 2977. And if you note also, higher volume today too. Something to kind of always take a look at, especially on a move, a larger move. So did it make a new high? No. Did it get close? Yes. Was the volume good? Absolutely. Did the options look good? Well, let's take a look at it. We talked about the net call premium, and I'll zoom in here, and you can pause if you want or take a screenshot. And I know I'll always highlight the top contracts by volume. Doesn't necessarily mean anything, but we'll just drill into it. A lot of that's split today between the bid and the ask. Equal buyers, equal sellers. And again, we see the $30 calls, which are close to at the money. $40 calls out of the money this week. 29s in the money. 35s, we're seeing those week in and week out. I get it. I understand. That's that opportunity. Hey, I'll grab them low, grab some profit maybe. Or, you held them till Friday and they expired. And with this week being short, be very cautious anytime with your short dated calls, especially on a short week. 55s for this week, so 30s for December, a little bit of time there. 125s, probably buying and selling of those 125s, and then 40s for December, again out of the money, but there is still some time on there. So let's zoom this back out for a second, and I want to take a look at actually where was that money though. Where on GameStop, where was that actual premium, like the highest premium? I've posted that before. We talk about, where's the highest level of concentration at. So we take a look today here, is the $30 calls for this week, 30 for next week, and the 29s for this week. So let's just drill into them and take a look. On the 30s, yes, there was a 3 mil total premium today. Bid volume, 12,600. Ask volume, a little bit larger, 15,700 roughly. So like I said, total premium, about 3 million. Now, we did see some of that volume on Friday. up here as new open interest. They could have been buying and selling both Friday. So it kind of moved up IV around the same 111, 110. These are ATM at the money, you would call them. You did see a little bit of movement of the price. Let's see, they're starting to fill around 84 into the power hour. And then closing around 120. So a little bit of a move there, about 50% move almost into the close. Let's actually shrink the timeline here. So you can look at some of the activity here. For example, they're this morning in at 72, up to 108. So definitely some movement on those for some short dated calls. So something always to watch out for. Now there was 31,000 total volume today. So we'll see what appears in open interest, but with equal, not equal, but kind of buying and selling today. You'll have some buy, they'll take profits. You'll have some selling up here, take profits. It just depends on what type of trade. And if we look at the 30s for next week, we can see some of that activity this morning again, around $185 a contract, up to 232, closing up to around 239. So definitely some movement there. There's about 1.6 mil total premium buying and selling. Volume a little bit larger than open interest, so we'll definitely check tomorrow's open interest updates, see what that is, because these are for the December 6th expiry. So a little bit of more time. IV a little bit high at 127%. So a little bit fueled by the upward move in the price today and the surge in volatility. We'll look at the 29s as well. Volume today about 3 times roughly, about a little less than 3 times of the open interest. So we'll take a look and see what of that appears maybe tomorrow. It's about 1.2 mil total premium today on the $29 calls. Now these did close in the money. For example, some of the lows filling under $100, got up to about 140. Let's see, 144, $144 into the close. So you can see ask volume, bid volume. So it's kind of split. There's some buying, there's some selling, some taking profits, some buying into the close, some buying into that surge, into the close there with price. So always something to be, look for. And also with it being short dated, expires Friday. And the IV at 97%. Always, protect your profits. Don't get too greedy. Be careful with expiry, especially short dated calls. Now, these are in the money. Now, the closer you get to expiry, regardless, the value of the premium starts declining. So you always want to take that into consideration, especially on your short dated calls. And the 30s for December 20th. So that'd be roughly a month out. I wanted to talk about that for a second. Now, there was some volume today, 2,200. Some open interest there, about 827,000 total premium. But I noticed into the close, and I'll confirm with open interest tomorrow, a little bit larger candle there. Average fill, about $400 a contract, maybe 600-700 there. A little bit more ask volume today than the bid. So let's zoom this out a few days and let's see if maybe, for example, this could have been somebody selling a bunch of those $30 calls and possibly had to purchase some of those back to, cover that losing position, essentially. You never know for sure. So sometimes it's always good to zoom that out and go back. For example, you might see today posts, oh, hey, let's see how much here. Let me put the 10-minute on here. So if you saw this, hey, 300,000 roughly in $30 calls, roughly at the money for next month, hey, but you don't know. Could be, like I said, could be something somebody bought because they'd already sold and the trade got away from them. It could somebody really like the price right now and giving themselves a month's time. So we'll take a look at that open interest tomorrow. So always check, those open interest updates the next day. Kind of always important to look at. And let's see, what was the other ones? Like $25 calls, which are in the money. There was activity on those today, about 807,000 total premium. Again, some ask volume a little bit larger than the bid, so suggesting possibly being added to the open interest. We'll take a look at that tomorrow, though, to confirm. There's been some activity across that particular chain, and to note, these are in the money calls. Now, for example, back on November 19th, they were filling for under $200, and today closed around 450. So, hey, not too bad there. With a little bit of time, like I said, they're in the money. So, but let's take a look at that gamma because we're getting a little closer to that 30. We had talked about it last week. So let's take a look at it now that the market's closed and we can evaluate some of that data. Because I want to see how that has compared. Because if you go back some of the videos I posted 2, 3 weeks ago, even the post back in October, maybe a month ago, we talked about how that gamma around the 25 before we actually got to that level. And I thought it was kind of a level we'd hang out at. And we kind of just moved kind of not past the 25, but just kind of in that range, the 26, 28, 29, kind of testing previous July highs. So that's something kind of interesting. So kind of as I expected, that gamma right here, highest open interest at 30. So something, and just a reminder, we'll pull it up here. That spot gamma exposure is the assumed dollar value of gamma exposure that market makers need to hedge per 1% change of the stock. So positive value is long gamma, negative value is short gamma. Today, gamma about 13 mil roughly. So as that price moves up, there's some gamma exposure on those calls as more. For example, if the price was down here at 28, 27, the more price moves to 30, more of those calls become in the money, and option dealer market makers have to hedge accordingly. So there is a little bit of positive net gamma exposure. And then if you look like your volume, like gamma per price change, so something I kind of talk about there. And if you need, let me pull that up. If you want to maybe screenshot this or pause it, then you can go back and like kind of read it as you go over the video. It'll kind of help to make sense a little bit there. So if we take a look here at this actual gamma, I want to talk about the net gamma here. Yeah, we talked about this last week. We were kind of, 25 was there, the 28 and 29 was there, but it really was centered around that 30 level. So that's kind of, significant. We saw higher volume with common shares, a little bit higher uptick in the net call premium into the day. So something to consider how that net gamma, as we just talked about with the spot gamma, as those calls become more in the money across the chain, that requires additional hedging. So you'll see some basically upside pressure within the stock. And then, for example, on the other side of that, say we see a bunch of calls unwound or position unwound, create shares that aren't needed anymore. So they sell the shares against the options that they once sold to somebody, and then provide a little. You'll see downside pressure. So that's kind of like the nuts and bolts there. You see the calls come in. They, as you buy them from somebody selling, they hedge them with shares, both long and short. So that's kind of how that works. But that 30 net gamma, and yes, that would set up higher 35 and 40. But let's focus on, testing those 29.79 levels, moving above, seeing 30 would kind of make definitely be interesting with all of that gamma centered around the 30. Now, we talked about the expiry. It's usually week in and week out where it's the highest. Again, this week is the highest on the net gamma side, followed by January 17th. So it is building a little bit for that January. So there could be some traders or bettors that are giving themselves a little bit more cushion on time. There are going to be GameStop earnings at some point, so we'll post the press release when that is officially announced, when that will be. So there could be some players gearing up for any type of move here for that January expiry. So that just gives them a little bit of time, December, January, about 60 days expiry versus, like a weekly call option, which we talked about in the last videos, how usually in the beginning of the week you see a lot of people buy the out of the money calls, and then you see that, maybe a boost in the premium. It gets everyone excited. Then new people come in and buy it high. Then it kind of fades down. Some people don't protect profits. Then they close Friday out of the money at $0. It happens week in and week out. So something to always, be cautious of. Be careful. Manage your risk. Nobody can do it for you. But with the right education, the right tools, I think you can make intelligent choices, just to lose less and win more. That's the objective here. Let's take a look at that net delta exposure. So it's, strong at the 20, 25, what's there, 30 and 40 and above. So again, we're right here, though that's at the money at the 30. So not sure with a short week, you play the price, you play the price action, you look at the volume, you look at the options, and you enjoy your day. That's what you can do. Highest net delta centered around the January expiry. So that kind of lines up with what we were just talking about there with the gamma. And then this week, and then December 20th. So things to look at. But we're going to pop back to that chart for just a second. Let's look at what the price is here. Let me turn on some after hours data here. 29.60. Okay. I just wanted to see if there was anything going on in that regard. Just because I was recorded in real time and had not looked. So we pull up that weekly. It's been strong. Nobody's got a crystal ball, but what we do look at I know that volume from back in those offerings. You can see when the offerings took place clearly by the volume. Plus, we had all the excitement over the summer. It was kind of wild. But let's zoom this in here so we can look at some of that volume. It's just a nice move. Kind of healthy on the weekly. And you look at that year to date, VWAP on the weekly, 26.78. So nice move. We'd like to see something above that. So if you're going to go 29.79, your next logical would be to test higher than 33.70. I'm not saying that's my price target. I'm just saying if things were to move in a continued upward motion, that would be your next level. Anything above where we're currently at. Obviously we can look for anything below where you're at too, where you've been. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I think with what we've seen, especially on the options, like we look at the let me go back to that net flow as we wrap this up here. I don't want to take too much more of your time. As we look at that like kind of historical on that net flow, we look at some of that net call premium. So let's give us some time here on that timeline. So look in the last couple weeks. Price, for example, post-election, still around the 23, and then it was like that 25 seemed to be a barrier, but then boom, it just happened. And we haven't seen those lower price levels. And each day you've seen some pretty significant, net call premium to kind of keep the move propped up with price, as well as keep moving for higher highs, which you've seen. You saw higher highs last week, again propped up even with some net call premiums. So on the 20th November, that was at higher day 9 mil net call premium. So today, not too bad at 4.2. And again, right up there in that same kind of price range as before. So when you kind of look at things historically, zoom out, give yourself some time. It just depends, what your objective here is. For example, a lot of people upset when the stock was trading at 20. And the same people are euphoric it's trading at 29.60. So it all depends, what your objective here. It's all fun. I'm here just to share data. You're all smarter than me, so you know exactly what I'm talking about here. But yeah, just a little wrap up. Look at the options today, the chart, just some things to look for, what I think. Happy Monday. I hope you guys have a great week. It's going to be a short one for us. I'll be busy with the family. I've been doing a lot of meal prep. I am the chef of Thanksgiving. It's something I've done for years. It's my pride and joy. Absolutely love creating the meal, making a lot of dishes, and feeding my family and seeing the smiles, and nothing better than saying, "Oh wow, that's a great plate of food." That's what it's all about. Seeing your family happy, and that's I think why we all trade and educate ourselves to make better trades, just so we could be there, provide for our family. That is the name of the game. As long as you're managing your risk, educating yourself, preserving your capital, you're doing what's best for you. That's the name of the game. So appreciate it. Let me know down below what you think of the video. If you did watch it all the way through, you're a legend. It tells me that you choose to spend some time learning about things, and I find that absolutely exciting. So if you did watch it all the way through, just leave me the comment down below. Let's see, a special code word today. And shout out and kudos to John Madden, turducken. Leave me the code word turducken, and I'll know you watched it all the way through. You guys have a great night, and we'll chat soon.